everyone. Welcome to another edition of Gender and Society Cluster from Nickel and Dime's Roundtable. Today on the panel, we have Sunidhi Gupta, Anvita, and I will be moderating this roundtable. Um, Today, we are discussing kind of a very popular topic at the time, apart not just as a part of pop culture itself, but I would say it's gotten much bigger than that, and its impact has been quite expansive and quite ever reaching in sort of all kinds of societies and communities. And it's Greta Gerwig's Barbie. And as we all know, the excitement around the release of the film was unlike anything we have sort of seen in recent years, especially coming from Hollywood. And the film was marketed as not only something um, that could not go without consumption, but its association with the director like Gerwig herself, who has made films like Lady Bird and Little Women. It's kind of very safe feminist approach narrative uh, that 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 got sort of marketed to everyone while Barbie's promotions were going around, and when social media was um, all about excitement around the film itself ever since it was announced last year. But was that really what the film was about? And is the feminist lens enough to break down what the movie ended up actually meaning? Uh, so today we will be sort of unpacking the film and how its popular image and Barbie as a material, as a toy itself, plays out as a character, as a main character of the film. Um, to sort of start the discussion and ask the panelists, what did you think of Gerwig's Barbie? Not just as in the film itself, but whatever was going around it, its promotional activities, its cast, and sort of their associations within Hollywood itself, and especially Barbenheimer, which was Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer's release on the same day. And it was a big day for not just Hollywood, but film buffs and like fans in general. And while many were excited, that's obviously the case. Gerwig's film is the one that has made the most money, which is directed by a woman. Um, so what do you guys think, sort of generally, start of the discussion? Sunidhi, did you raise your hand? Yeah, go on.
The thing that Barbie and Oppenheimer came on the same weekend, but within the audiences, at least, within the Indian audiences, the fact and also the understanding of how, there was a divide of Oppenheimer being the more intellectual and a more serious kind of film, while when we talk about Barbie, everyone was, correlating it with of course, like, something for the children, especially for the girls, something on a more lighter something on a more lighter note, or maybe, something which is less serious, though we all know that after seeing Barbie, or after hearing it, that even it deals with a very particular sort of ideology, the feminism, what like girls go through in the real world as they grow up from their infant, like from the childhood to through teenage to adulthood. It also deals with a very sensitive topic in a more sort of in a more friendlier way. It's not that serious, but the fact that, Oppenheimer was given a more sort of a cinematic experience tag or something like that, that is the divide which sort of was always there during the promotions, and did not that is not the best way to sort of promote a film. But yeah, that became like a that became a presumption basically even before the movies came out. So yeah.
Right, thanks. Anvita, yeah, go on.
Yeah, so one of the things that stood out to me during all the advertising and everything was that uh, in every part of the world, people started to relate themselves and relate their culture to Barbie. So about the Asian Daisy Barbie that women started to romanticize, and the aesthetics and everything, and the hijabs that were like ordered in bulk for just the Barbie movie and everything. So that was one thing that I um, noticed.
Yeah, that's an sort of that's a sort of important example to bring in how global Barbie became um during the sort of promotional activities of the film itself. Uh, Mattel has always sort of promoted Barbie as a very globally consumed, globally sort of approached toy, because they did sort of look through the criticisms of Barbie being very like the main character itself, the stereotypical Barbie. And then they introduced several identities, several features, several ethnicities, several sort of stages of life for women, which change their bodies, change their appearances. They added the disabled Barbie. So that was sort of the sentiment they went along with. And I think I read this in an interview. I think Margot Robbie said that she wouldn't be playing a Barbie um, who is just the blonde sort of leggy white Barbie. She would only do it if there are multitudes of characters coming together of different identities and even sexualities. There was a trans Barbie in the film. And of course, there are like Black, Asian, Indian, several kinds of Barbies. So that's kind of really important in how the sort of global global idea of Barbie was represented in the film itself. And it was kind of very important to both Gerwig and Robbie as well, who was the producer of the film, which is, I think, very important to mention here that she was involved more than just the cast itself, just as a cast member. And around the Sunidi's point of like Oppenheimer and Barbie sort of considered differently in terms of intellect. So I think that's where sort of misogynist ideas also come in, where you think it's kind of really central to how, when we discuss escapist or sort of um, particular kind of genre in which men are sort of really in deep thought and thinking, and there's always a woman involved who's causing all those issues in their heads, and those are considered really serious, really deep texts, and things written by women, especially like Jane Austen's sort of um, huge text. I'm sort of just bringing her up as an example here, because of course she's classic. She's central to classic literature, but it's not considered as deep because it's family drama, it's romance, and those things are not serious because that just happens to everyone, and it's there's nothing special about it. So that's where sort of misogynist ideas also come in, that Barbie wouldn't be serious regardless of whatever it's discussing, because feminism is not that serious. And On the case of the narrative itself, Oppenheimer was discussing something completely. I don't want to say that those two films shouldn't be compared, because I mean, how else are we going to have a discourse at all? But Oppenheimer was about a man who had invented the bombs that had caused such havoc in Japan. And it's a completely different narrative, but also it was dealt differently because they focused on Oppenheimer himself. Like just his life and not really things around him, which was one of the bigger criticisms of the film itself. I don't want to get too much into it because that film is another can of worms. But yeah, these two things are very complex in terms of how fandoms work. Because while Greta Gerwig, a young, really sort of um, um, loved director, regardless of what she takes up, she's not going to be considered as serious as someone like Christopher Nolan. Regardless of what she decides to make in the future, regardless of whether it's independent or commercial, and that specifically comes from her identity as a woman. But to move on, what did you think were the sort of Gerwig aspects of the film itself? We have seen her. She is not, while she has made sort of independent films. She has worked in as an actress in independent films, and she really focuses on very complex female relationships and feminist themes in more subtle, sort of nuanced ways. So what were the themes that Barbie, as a commercial huge film, earned like millions of billions of dollars? I think 1 billion, but yeah, figures. What were the themes that stood out for you, especially in the film, which was marketed as a feminist one? Whoever wants to go first.
So I haven't really watched much of Gerwig's movies, but from my research, I got to know that uh, they were. I mean, she was eh, mostly, into the feminist movies that gave women the most, like, that um discovered that delved into more female relationships and how it, it kind of reflects in the Barbie movie too, because this is not about how the usual movies work, but like how they try to understand how an adolescent would react in a certain situation, or how they would expect how the life would be, and how the turn of events takes them to understand the complexities of life and everything. So I think that is.
Yeah, thanks, Anvita. Do you have anything to add, Suniti?
Pretty much Anvita said. Again, like the movie focuses, the main idea of the movie, where it comes from, is basically like, of course, looking into not just the beauty and the glamour around, and beauty and glamour, and also how the Barbie in the movie itself establishes her own like utopian world, but to express that the world is not as fair and simple as it seems to be, and it's not all roses, and it's not all bed of roses, and there are a lot of complexities in it, and how the movie refers to it in a very like by taking Barbie as a medium, sort of, that how the toy used to express all girls playing it and everything, and then how using that toy only it is made to realize that as a child grows up, there are other emotions, and if a certain thought process from the childhood itself is sort of impressed on a person, then it might become a burden, as in when you grow more or evolve more in life. So I think it's been dealt very subtly but very nicely in the movie.
Thanks. Yeah. Specifically about the Utopia itself, I think that's a very interesting sort of landscape that Gerwig explained, that in which there was a world which was in which would ideally be in a woman or a girl's head, the perfect place. Like that's where we would want to live, which is sort of I wouldn't want to say rule, but there's a certain dominance that comes to you with your specific sort of gender or sexuality, as opposed to men, like the Kens, the sort of category of Kens, and it's done in a very simple manner, I would say, uh, but but uh, but in a very sort of drastic approach that they take to showing patriarchy's infiltration in society. So Ken sort of learns patriarchy and comes back to infiltrate the supposed perfect world, and there's a certain like sort of imbalance in power, and there was also a sort of comparison shown in which if there was an imbalance of power when it came to women as compared to men, it would be sort of dealt differently because men almost got like violent, um and I think the specific approach of using a war to show how men sort of affect society through patriarchy was very central, because men are usually, it's we've learned in like theory of nationalism and communities, like imagined communities, by Benedict Anderson, that ideas of nation, borders, communities itself, it's very imagined like by ourselves, and eventually feminist scholars have talked about how these are extremely gendered imaginations, that national borders are completely patriarchal, and the idea of nation itself is patriarchal. So to show a war between amongst the Kens, just because they wanted to take over, and like sort of women doing that through their sexuality as well, are a kind of very canon sort of things that she was trying to replicate in Barbie Land, which I found kind of very interesting. There are of course the side plot happening with the humans and Barbie when she interacts with the Mattel seniors and the two humans, the America Ferrera character. I forgot her name. I'm sorry. But yeah, the daughter and the mother, and motherhood is something she sort of subtly interacted with, not as well as she did in Ladybird, which was all about mother and daughter relationship, and of course, like Ladybird herself sort of growing up, sort of transitioning between young adult to adult, and struggling with all of those things. So there is of course the huge, like the ending transformation scene of Barbie herself becoming human, and the specific things that she learns, like herself becoming a woman, is about motherhood. So that's something that Gerwig sort of continues to tackle in her narratives. Yes, Sunidhi, I think you wanted to say something.
I'd like to add, like how you said that, Ken learned patriarchy and sort of got it into the Barbie land, and and that utopian world was sort of infiltrated and everything. I think one of the other aspects that Gerwig sort of dealt with is how the human aspect is, that how Barbie land seems to be very perfect, but in real life, how uh, in other movies also it's portrayed that the woman is sort of expected to give a motherly emotion, or an understanding to the male protagonist and everything. Something similar happened in this movie also, which gave an idea of actually nothing like a Barbie land exists, and if you deal with human emotions, you will fall into the fact that how Barbie was the one struggling. Barbie was the one who was dealing with human emotions, and at the same time, the Barbie land was in a haywire. And still, at the end, she was the one who was consoling Ken and trying to get him out of his own shell. Like she was dealing with Ken's problems of him having an identity issue and being in the shadows of Barbie, while Barbie was trying to soft talk him into telling him to get out into his own and get his own personality apart from her, which is again like a very huge of an expectation, ideally, from the women itself. And it is not just this movie, it is a lot of plots that propose the same thing. And that is where the societal aspect comes in, which is very different from, of course, the animated world.
Yeah, that is true. Ken's character, while quite comedic and again a bit simple, he plays a very central role in sort of expanding um fears of um fears of a patriarchal society itself, because we see him like a very bubbly, sort of fun character who's harmless. Harmless would be sort of the first thing you come up with when you see Ken's character, and the whole he's just Ken, she's Barbie, he's just Ken, the whole thing. And him sort of taking over that Mojo Dojo Casa house kind of personality was in itself kind of a very scary sort of thing to see, because the whole Barbie Land seemed like a sort of enlarged sort of sandbox in which a, a bunch of girls and boys are playing, and the boys have sort of learned the sort of rules of society, and they know that they are the sort of leaders of communities and families, and this is how you treat women, and something very innocent turned very real, and very quickly. So in those terms, while the film was extremely pink and colorful and a lot of fun, you do see the horrors of society reflected right into Barbie Land itself, and it's simple. It's not as nuanced, and it's not supposed to be. You can't sort of label a film unconsumable on those terms, that it was just too simple, it's not nuanced, because that's a very sort of elitist point of view, especially in terms of intellect and sort of the academic ivory tower and everything. So while it was simple, it was the truth, and it was quite well done, especially through character like Barbie. But what did you think of the marketing budget? So here, I think is very important to discuss that the film had a bigger marketing budget than the budget for the film itself, like the groundwork, the basic filming stuff, the cast and everything. So what did you think of that? That the movie was the way it was being promoted. If you saw any marketing campaigns, in what forms, some examples, anything. Some examples that I came across were very like honestly, if any app I went to, they had a Barbie version of something. Let's say like Mintra or any sort of merchandise store, or for example Nika, or what are other apps? I don't use a lot of apps actually, that I've realized. But they were all doing some Barbie promotions of some kind. All of them had tie-ups with Barbie, big brands, like several big brands were doing collaborations with the Barbie film itself, and they were selling pink merchandise for it was very eye-catching, and everyone was getting ads for those kind of stuff. And even while actually watching the quiz show, Jeopardy, the American quiz show, they also had like a sort of question related to Barbie, and they were promoting the film itself as well. So Barbie kept popping up a lot in the past sort of 3-4 months, I would say, and the promotion was insane. It was just everywhere. I think Sunidhi, you wanted to add something.
Yeah, like you were saying that on all the big brands have like promotions. So what I came across was that I think one of the Miniso stores that I visited, all the merchandise, like all the sort of soft toys or the stuff, like whatever hard material they were selling, bottles and everything. It had a Barbie stamp, and it was all over the place. Like the theme of the store itself was Barbie. I feel that the promotion was, I think this was the first movie, like which was basically acted out, which was different from the animated movie. And so like there was a lot of efforts put into promotion to sort of differentiate what Barbie, how previous Barbie films as cartoons had came in, and how this was a different Barbie film. And not just that, I think it was a effort on the side of the team for Barbie to be accepted globally. Like start discussed it initially. Anvita mentioned about all the different communities came up with their own sort of Barbie looks. Basically, everyone wearing pink and everyone with that sort of contour, and a lot of Bollywood. There were a lot of animated pictures or graphics of Bollywood stars. They were dressed up in Barbie themes, or they wore pink, and were like in the Barbie look itself. So the idea wasn't just the movie; it was basically a look and emotion that was being promoted in this whole thing. It wasn't just about Barbie as a person or as a toy. It was about the color scheme, or the way they dressed, or the glamour also that has been involved in Barbie since the start, that was being promoted along with the film.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
can I add?
yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah, no, I just wanted to say that at some point, people were so accustomed to seeing it everywhere that there was just a color palette that they used to promote. So there's this banner with just color, pink color, just pink color, right? Like, and then it said 22nd July. So that was just enough for people to understand what was coming and what the advertisement was for. So that was a huge, um, you know, advertising idea.
Yeah, after the film came out, they literally opened a whole Barbie dream house in Malibu, and it's like a whole, you can go live there. It's like a legit house, and that's just a lot of money for promotion. And uh sort of the idea of Mattel itself, a huge company, a huge corporate sort of organization, being involved in the production of the film itself, and continuing a sort of Mattel cinematic universe, similar to the Marvel cinematic universe, which is very embarrassing, but it is happening. Uh, is it is kind of, it makes everything look very suspicious, because um the, while they are taking up specifically with Barbie, I'm not saying they're going to keep making films that are marketed as like big feminist narratives, because not all toys can be sort of like, I think, as far as I'm aware. But MCU, that is the Mattel cinematic universe, sort of dealing with Barbie, and putting in so much money during this sort of sensitive time in Hollywood, when writers and actors and performers are on a major strike, and every studio is sort of shut down, has cancelled so many projects, so many people are have stopped working and are out on the picket lines for basic rights, basic pays, and sort of basic recognition of their work, uh, especially against artificial intelligence being incorporated in the industry. It's very interesting, those two kind of things happening at the same time. I think Warner Brothers was also involved. Warner Brothers Studios and Productions were also involved in the film itself, and their writers, actors, and everyone is striking against these studios. So them putting in so much money into marketing and the promotion of such a big film, and still being against uh, those writers who are actually doing the work, who are actually bringing these films to the screen. I'm not saying that that's what happened with Barbie, because Barbie was, I think, finished before the contract period of the Writers Guild Association started, with of all the members, all the union members striking together. But something like this happening is just very suspicious in terms of how how a capitalist society affects art and the industry of art that produces art. And and it just makes Barbie's whole um purpose as a progressive film, as something that is narratively or in whatever other ways is sort of woke, um becomes questionable, because what are we calling woke at this point? Something that spends a lot of money and gains money in that sense, and is actually affecting the environment in so many ways, but is feminist. So can that actually be called feminist? Because feminism is not just equal rights. It's so much more than that. We have discussed that in our previous roundtables as well. But can we really center it all to just women not being treated badly in society? Or does other things like capitalism also come together in the conversation itself? So a film like Greta Gerwig's Barbie becomes like brings up these really complex questions of um, what can be considered progressive, and what kind of narratives affect societies in what ways, because there were people wearing pink clothes to the movies, which was really fun. I actually found that really cute, while it was really difficult for me to find anything pink in my closet. uh but it was still a lot of fun to sort of see people coming together and going to watch a film, having something similar in everyone, which was just the urge to have fun. Was really nice. So there's both of those things. So what do you guys think? Uh, it like keeps Barbie, like where does it put Barbie in that sense, in as a piece of media, in especially in today's times when such questionable narratives are coming out of film industries, including Bollywood, especially now, where I think they are making a film in which they are romanticizing Holocaust, something like that. But yeah, what do you guys think about Barbie's stance on all those things?
Um, so, like what you talked about the Mattel cinematic universe, the idea of the movie, I believe, was to subtly give an idea of like how Barbie sort of interacts with human emotions, and then there were feminist aspects and everything. The idea was, I don't think so, ever to, sort of promote the toy itself, like, the doll itself. And so the idea now that there might be a Mattel cinematic universe is sort of overshadowing the message, subtle social message in a fun way that the film was trying to give, because now it's again become about the toys and how, you sort of humanize all of them, and all of them cannot have a social
I would like to
aspect.
stop you here that they were not trying to do anything about the dolls. Because Mattel, while they were promoting the film, came out with dolls that replicated the characters in the movie, including Margot Robbie's very iconic sort of pink striped dress, and her car and everything. So they were trying to make it all about the dolls as well. They were trying to make money in more ways than one, more ways than just the film itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like the idea of getting like, not just Barbie, but like other toys also in the form of like a movie, like sort of Barbie sort of takes away from the social message
Yeah.
that the is trying to give out. So that way, it's a little problematic because then it again turns into like something sort of a Hollywood Avengers sort of a thing only, that they're like different characters and the movies coming out, they have their own trajectory, and it does not remain an independent thing then.
Exactly. It does turn a film like Barbie, the way it was marketed and everything, um, into a sort of we do kind of go into the theaters thinking, oh, we are watching Greta Gerwig. It does have that sort of indie film ring to it, but you're not actually doing that because you've been sort of forced to watch that film almost. And honestly, I would say I was forced to watch it as well because I am a big fan of Barbie itself, but um, it was just so in my face all the time that I had to go and like book the tickets and everything. But yeah, this is a really important thing to discuss. We have to watch movies critically, continuously, especially in the capitalist sort of landscape, and even when it comes to Greta. And let's see what Mattel Cinematic Universe has in store for us. Uh, Thanks for watching our roundtable, everyone. We will be coming out with another edition next month.